Bates Motel Season 5, Episode 2, The Convergence of the Twain. Really love this episode. I mean, a lot of things happened much faster paced than I was expecting. I figured, of course, and I said this in my review for the premiere, at some point, of course, the other characters are going to realize we have three characters in Emma, Dylan, and Caleb that don't actually know that Norma is dead. And I was like, of course they're going to find out before the season is over. And I just didn't expect instantly Caleb will go straight there. I thought maybe it would be held off for an episode, possibly two. But I figured, of course, somehow he'll end up, finding out this information. He's not just going to show up and then be gone. Something's going to happen where he's going to be there. And I did not expect it to be the very next episode. He was just like, well, only other place I can go. And he goes straight to find Norma. And, he gets into the house and he sees, like, things are really weird. It's like, man, Norma is kind of OCD about the cleaning, like when she was alive, of course. So there's, dishes piled up and, there's a bunch of dog food that's not being eaten, weird stuff like that. It's like, okay, something is going on here. And so he goes to the other motel, I believe it was called the Knights Motel, and that's how he finds out that his sister is actually dead. And it's considered a suicide, which I never realized that it would be considered something different. And I just didn't even think of it before. Like, oh yeah, I guess they would have to determine if it was a murder or a suicide or whatever it was going to be. But it just never occurred to me, like, what would it be deemed as? So everyone believes that it was a suicide. And once he finds out that information, of course, he goes to the grave and he is grieving like crazy throughout this episode. And Chick comes back into play, which I also mentioned that before as well. Like, well, we kind of have to see him too because he's not dead, so they have to have their confrontation. Didn't think that was going to be this episode, but Chick comes along early on in the episode. He's talking with Norman. He's like the one person who's like, whatever, the kid's effing nuts, but he can help me make some money. So he takes the animals to him, and they make kind of like a deal for the taxidermied animals. So things are kind of working out, and then he's like writing notes and stuff, possibly to kind of make a book or something and see how that plays out. And he looks up, lo and behold, here comes Caleb. So he goes and talks to him, and they have their confrontation, and he realizes that Caleb has just found out that Norma was actually dead. So he kind of takes it easy on him a little bit, and of course that leads to the end of the episode where Caleb is like, she wouldn't commit suicide, and I told her that her son would snap at some point, and she got hurt, but he's not going to get away with this. And I figured he wouldn't find anything by the end of this episode. Same thing, like I said, a whole episode was a bunch of stuff I thought that'll be in like 3 or 4 more episodes or something, but final season, they're just kicking it up. And I believe if this kind of falls in line with previous seasons, sadly we're only going to get like 10 to 12 episodes. So I guess it makes a lot of sense. Final season, they're just, kicking it off with a bang. And he finds Norma's frozen body in the basement. He gets knocked out, and then Chick is behind Norman with him in the wig and stuff, and he's like, holy shit, because now he knows like exactly how things are, playing out. And that's when Norman turns around and is like, I guess now you know my secret. I'm alive. So it was just nuts. It was a crazy way to end the episode. I'm assuming that Caleb isn't going to be killed. They're probably going to lock him up for a bit, and Chick probably won't have much of an issue with that, considering his history with Caleb. But it was crazy. I couldn't believe that was actually how it ended. Like, he went through, Caleb went through this crazy process of finding out that his sister was dead and it's deemed a suicide, and knowing that that's not true, and trying to find the answers to take out Norman, and seeing his dead sister's frozen body. It's just nuts. And then, of course, he gets knocked out, so I don't know how in the world we're supposed to expect that to play out with the whole idea of him having been with Emma and Dylan in the last episode, and Emma actually talks about how she told him to leave, which I was very surprised by. But with him having had that conversation between Emma and Dylan, I feel like there's going to be something to that where he does call Norman and say like, hey, I know it's been a long time or whatever, but I just wanted to let you know that Caleb showed up here. He might show up there just to give you and Norma some warning. And I feel like that's how it's going to lead into him going back to town. And then, of course, we have Romero in this episode who ends up in a fight after, he kind of snaps a little once Norman shows up. So he gets into a fight with an inmate, and he's able to request a transfer because it was like, yeah, before I was so devastated by the loss of my wife, I didn't really care, but now I do, and I want to, of course, take care of the son that she left behind. So he requested transfer for safety and stuff like that, so he's closer. And based on the promo, I don't know if that's like episodes ahead or if that was actually the next episode, but it seemed like he escaped at some point. I doubt they, let him free. So I'm not sure exactly what the case was, but he was like in some next to like a tree or something coming out of the woods. So I'm like, I don't know if that's like far future episode or if that's the next episode. But of course, eventually he ends up escaping, and they reference the fact that it was 5 years or something like that. He's supposed to be getting like 5 years. I could have sworn in the last episode he said 2 years. He had 2 years left or something crazy like that. So maybe I just misheard. But when he said that, I was like, was there a bigger time gap than I was thinking? But I don't think that was actually the case. But it was definitely interesting. It was a really good episode, and just all the stuff happening. It was so fast paced. It was really well done. All these truths coming out, and Norman, of course, being crazier and crazier, and still thinking that his mother is secretly alive in the house and telling everyone else that she's dead. Finding out that Mr. David Davidson was actually, I believe the one, I can't remember her name, I know it starts with an M, but finding out that that was actually her husband. And I swear when that happened, I was like, I swear, no series has ever made it so convenient for somebody to be able to be with somebody else. Like, every season, there is some reasoning for Norman to be able to legitimately get with someone, and it makes sense. Because I was like, well, I mean, she seemed like she's, kind of into him. She mentions, like, oh, my friend is cute and nice, you're cute and nice, and he kind of flirts with her, and she's like, she smiles at it and stuff. And then I'm like, all right, that could lead to something where she could possibly cheat on her husband. It's like, but that's kind of up in the air. It's way too early to know anything like that about her character. They just kind of seem to hint at it. And then it's like, oh, this is my husband, the cheater. And it's like, oh, there's not a single series has ever made it so easy for a main character to constantly be with some woman who he's just going to end up murdering anyway. And of course, they actually reference it in this episode when he's kind of talking to himself, that she does look like Norma. She has the long blonde hair, she wears the dresses and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's, that was of course what it was in the first episode when he sees her from behind and she has the dress and the long hair. I was like, yeah, of course that's it. And he even says it himself, basically. I mean, obviously Norma isn't actually there. It's like she's just me like 20 years younger. And I was like, yep, it's just crazy. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but he now has that kind of secret under his belt right now where he could kind of mess with him and tell her the truth and take that apart, and then he could be with her, which would sadly ultimately lead to her death. He'd be helping her just to lead her into something much worse by killing her. But it's there now, so who knows how the heck this is going to play out. But it was a really great episode. Really loved the ending. It was just a fast-paced episode that did so much stuff at one time, especially for Caleb, from going back to Norma, to finding out the truth about Norma, to wanting revenge for Norma, to finding her. It was a crazy journey for his character more than anyone else in this episode, and it leads to him being knocked out. So I don't know what to expect for this next one, how long we should really expect him to live, honestly, with that being the case. But I'm looking forward to this next episode for sure. Would love to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And, Chick knows the truth, and he seems to be kind of going along with it. They have the part at the dinner table. So I would love to know how you guys think they're going to handle Caleb knowing the truth. Are they just going to kill him? Are they going to, keep him trapped but feed him, that sort of thing, so he has the chance to escape? I would love to know your predictions on where in the world that's headed, because I'm super excited for it. There's so much that happened in this episode. It just kind of blew me away. Like, wow. The first episode, it was an introduction, still really good. Caleb comes in, it's like, okay, so there's a lot of things just like, here's what could happen. And then in this episode, pretty much everything I thought about as far as Caleb took place, and plus, way beyond what I was thinking. All of it took place in just this one episode. So I can't really guess how it's going to go from here with the rest of the season. 8, possibly 9 episodes, possibly 10 episodes left. They did everything I thought they were going to do with Caleb in the first 2 episodes. So I don't know where the heck it's going, but would love to know your predictions. And of course, like I said, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.